Let's up the score. We're gonna talk about the NBA trades that happened all season. This is your boy Chris. We're gonna talk about the latest and greatest in NBA right now. So let's get right to it. The NBA landscape has completely shift right now by different deals, but I'm gonna give you a couple of deals I thought in my mind kind of shifted a little bit in my mind. So let's talk about this Giannis, and to Miami. My thoughts about it. Well, the deal, Miami Heat and the Milwaukee Bucks deal sends Giannis and Bobby Portis to Miami and Tyler Hero, uh, Kellen Ware, Jaime Jaquez Jr., and, and Yakis Mariano. Uh, I'm probably chopped up his name real bad. In three first rounders and one swap in the second rounder. My thoughts about it is this. The thing about it is the Bucks got a good deal out of it for the long term. Short term, the Heat isn't a win now mode. The only thing bad about it I don't like about this deal for Miami is they don't. For one thing, they for like the second apron and all the veteran players they needed to get for Giannis and Bam because they need more shooters and uh more ball handlers and stuff like that. They lose one of their best outside shooters in Tyler Hero. Uh, they lose a they lose a pretty decent big guy, Kevin Ware, but they got Jokic. Uh, yeah, they not Yo. Yeah, I think his name Jokic, but they got big with him. He signed a pretty nice deal last year, but he didn't get a pretty. I don't think he got enough run last year, so we gotta see what comes after that. But like I said, they got us two draft picks. Nate Meneman from out of Tennessee. He went to Milwaukee, and he was a 13 overall draft pick. He's a 6'10" wing prospect. It gives a nice kickstart to their era. Plus they got berries too, so they got some few young pieces on top of that. But Pat Rise is white well that likes to hunt down superstars that can trans can shift the Miami Heat organization as much as they can. They try to do it. They did it with LeBron and they did it with Jimmy. He knows to get those type of players to come in. But the thing about it right now is mainly how how can Giannis could fit in the Heat culture in the sense of it can fit with everything go right. It will be a match made in heaven. So they lose Norman Powell to Chicago during the free agency. So they lose another shooter right there. But it's going to be very interesting how Pat Riley is going to be able to roster around them. Plus, they in the LeBron sweepstakes right now too. So I don't personally don't like that for LeBron too because they don't have enough pieces to do what they need to do because they definitely need shooters and ball handling and all sorts of other players that do that. They got Davon Mitchell. He's a very good defensive player, a young guard that came out of. I know he's from Savannah, but I forgot what college he went to, but I think he will be nice. He'll fill that roster out much as they can, but I really want to see what's going on with that. I do want to see what kind of how Giannis and Bam Adebayo will fit in the front court because the offensive dynamic that Bam is Bam's a pretty good playmaker. He's developing a shot. His that he can shoot the ball. I'm gonna say he's the greatest shooter, but he does enough to keep the defense bag off a little bit more. But the biggest issue is going to be spacing for them because I want to see Eric Spoelstra try to figure out an offensive game plan to keep them spaced out as much as possible. But the the theory in my head is this: Bam can shoot that leaves kind of the paint area where Giannis at. But I, like I said, the biggest issue to me is how Miami Heat gonna build around that whole Bam and Giannis situation because of the cap reasons and things like that. So, like I said, like we discussed earlier about the second apron trap, I don't know what they're gonna do. They can't do too much. You know, they don't have players. You know, they ain't got players that I don't know what kind of players they picked up. I think they just picked up Tim Hardaway, so that's a good veteran player they brought in. So I like that addition. It gives them another shooter. But the 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 thing about it is, can they get a bang for their buck for those veterans and ask them to take major pay cuts? So, but that's why I think that's the thing I look at from my end. Let's talk about some more of the Bucks end of the thing of the deal. Like for me, it feels like they got fleeced, but four. Well, actually, they got four good players. Plus, on top of that, they gonna probably be within the top. They might be in the lottery pick next year because no telling what kind of players they get back. But like I said, with Tyler Hero, they gives them a media impact player. They average 20 points a game, and then he got the your core. Hawkman is going to be a good 6 man for him. Where it gives him a young 7 footer, but they still got Miles Turner, so he gonna be backing up him. But Amon got Nathan Amon. They got a. I want to know how they gonna fit him in with the other collection of the team. So the biggest key they got they got the draft capital. So it's gonna be very very interesting in my opinion. But thing about it is, I don't think the Bucks is gonna be good as is, and they ain't gonna be as great this year. But it's gonna be very interesting how they gonna how the Heat will be this season because Giannis was hurt majority of the season, but he wanted to play some more games during this year. So depending on how that situation gonna pop out, we gonna see because is Giannis is on a downhill trajectory, or we're gonna see more than Giannis we've been seeing the last couple of years. But he's still gonna be more than he's pretty much gonna be on the nipped up side basically. Um, just let me know how you feel about this Giannis situation, and do you think that the Heat will be top 16 this year? And tell me what your thoughts about the Bucks. Is they gonna go on the way up, or they gonna be going back down for the next 5 years until they find another Giannis? But it's gonna be kind of hard to find another player like Giannis. But to the next deal, I want to talk about is the multi-team deal that provides value and all sorts of stuff. Man. Like for instance, we're gonna talk about the three-way deal with the Wolves, Bulls, and the not New Jersey Knicks, the Brooklyn Nets. So you got Julius Randle, he's on Brooklyn Net. Nick Claxton's going to Chicago, and I think I'm trying to figure out who else was on this deal. Somebody else, but that, that, let's talk about what's let's talk about Brooklyn right now with Julius Randle. Julius Randle has been traded for like the second time in 2 years, pretty much. Um, that helps out Minnesota with their second apron issue. But we're gonna talk about LaMelo Ball going to the Minnesota Timberwolves. So I'm gonna say it helps them the luxury tax situations. They let LaMelo in. They brought LaMelo in. So right now, my thoughts on Julius Randle being a Brooklyn Net. Brooklyn, I think there's a I think it's gonna be very interesting watching Michael Porter Jr. and him on the same floor and how they gonna use them. Then they got Mikael Brown too. So it's gonna be a very interesting team next year. So I think Julius Randle, to me personally, I always thought that Julius Randle was like he could be a second or third best player on the team. Uh, it depends what team it is for a second best player, and it depends on what type of team a third team, like a third best player on a good team. So right now, I can say that Michael Porter Jr. I think Michael Porter and Julius Randle are the same player, but if you want to say who's more a franchise guy, I give it a little more edge to Julius because he did it a little bit longer because he played in New York for a while and he got that spotlight of being the star player. But it helps him out because it gives them more veterans for Brooklyn to get them taking the right steps to be I won't say at least charge at the play in much as much as they're gonna be on the bottom side. They've been in the lottery for the past couple of years, so it does help them in that way to get better. And I can see the peaks and valleys of that. They're gonna have some issues on the court because Julius is the type of guy that he can be a little reckless on the offensive end because sometimes he gets the ball off the rebound and go full speed ahead. And sometimes he get an offensive foul, but he is a he's a decent. I won't say decent playmaker, but he's a good playmaker at that. So that gonna help Michael Porter Jr. and Mikael Brown and the other guys that can shoot the ball because he will kick it out and get some assists. And and Julius Randle will not cheat you most games. We won't say most games, but he won't never cheat you basically because he plays hard all the time. He won't give up, even though he might have a bad game. Let's say he had 10 points, 4 rebounds. He went 3 for 17 that night. He would still give his all on the defense and the offensive end. He would never quit basically. Um, on the Wolves side, they just picked up, if I'm not mistaken, I think they got Isaiah Evans. So they ended up getting him in the top of the first or second round, which is a good player. They could be a first round tier, but he's an early second round guy. I like Isaiah Evans, even though he played at Duke. I like his skill set for them for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Um, Nick Claxton, as a Bull, I'm a Bulls fan. I like the fact we got Nick Claxton because we need somebody. We need another big after Vujicic left. So at least we get a big that's gonna average at least 12 and 7 and give you a few block shots a game. Uh, he's a lefty. He shoots the perimeter shot too. So it's gonna be fun watching him. I'm gonna say fun, but it will be good to watch him and Caleb Williams playing right side by side with each other, and because it gives them a little bit of length, so they kind of stop them, especially for Ti Splitter there. I want to see what kind of offense and defensive sets they're going to run and how they going how they going to be a better defensive team than they was last year, and how valuable is he going to be in the offensive end too for Nick. But but I think the reason why Brooklyn did the deal so they could change the guards a little bit because moving Nick Claxton from Brooklyn to Chicago, it I won't say it changes the mindset for the Brooklyn Nets because you took a good defensive center and pretty much is going saying the mindset of the Brooklyn Nets is like, okay, we took this big man away. He's a good defensive piece, but the name of the game right now, they got to put ball in the hole. So we got to do that. And then they picked up Josh, Josh Jefferson, which was part of the deal. So he's a good All American guy from Iowa State. So I like that pick too because he averaged 16 and 7 and 4. So that lets me know he's a playmaker in a sense. So he would do things to set up his teammates to get good baskets and things like that too. So his toughness and versatility get him a court immediately, especially his IQ at the game. So which which I like for them. Um, like I said, we're gonna go back. We're gonna go back to the Bulls, and the mindset of the Bulls getting Nick Claxton is like this. They get a defensive anchor, and the perfect. I'm gonna say a perfect paint fit. Perfect paint fit. It gives them more a live threat, crashing the offensive boards and clean up defensive misses. Like a pretty much is anything breaks down on defense, he's there to erase it or change the shot trajectory much as he can. So it's going to be a little easier on them on the defensive end. And it's to me it sounds like what I took away from what I took away from for this deal is that Minnesota's going one direction and they trying to get back to the Western Conference. They need more scoring for Anthony Edwards, and they're gonna try to do much as they can. But we will see they will regret trading Julius Randle or not. So that's one thing I can say. And I want to see another thing I take away from Brooklyn Knicks side of it is that they trying to add more veterans to the team and trying to get better as a team so they can make the push to get at least to playing status at least. And in Chicago, like I said, Chicago is pretty much just we 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 taking a hard reset right now. So, but that's why I think about it. My next, I'm gonna go into. I'm gonna put it like this. I think the Charlotte Hornets pretty much went. Charlotte Hornets went on a fire sale. I could say that pretty much. We're gonna talk about this one deal, and then we're gonna talk the next deal after that. So let's talk about LaMelo Ball going to Minnesota. Um, if you want to talk about drawing a line in the sand and look at the Charlotte Hornets right now, because in span of like days during the time, I mean, they move off LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges, and the LaMelo Ball era is dead now. The era is dead. So pretty much they tell it. The Charlotte Hornets telling us right now we're gonna look at Con Knipple and Brandon Miller as they two offense, two not two offense, but they two offense, not offense. They are the two franchise guys going into next season. But they two top offensive guys on the team. So that's why I look at it for them. So well, the deal for them is like they get future draft picks and they get flexibility. Plus they get a massive salary relief. At the time I heard this deal, I like Miller Ball's going to Minnesota. Okay, so what's Charlotte's end game here? They gonna get Jaylen Brown? What they gonna do? So like I'm gonna say about I give it a few days. I'll say about 2 days max, or maybe more than 2 days. They end up trading Miles Bridges. But like I said, I'll get to that deal later. That's stick to the Minnesota and the Hornets deal. But so why did Charlotte make the pivot off of LaMelo Ball? First of all, LaMelo Ball it's an all star talent. He got ankle injuries and his availability is kind of it's a hit and miss sometimes. Especially the last maybe 2 years. So the decision that Charlotte has to no longer wants to build around Lamelo and especially he's a superstar match player at that for that team at that. So I won't say they got a haul for him, but they got Nas Reed, which is a guy they get a big man that which he will start for this team with that. They get a guy that's highly skilled, coach etc. And he brings I'm gonna say he brings the attitude, he brings winning culture. So which I love that though for them. Um the the windfall of Charlotte well I won't say Charlotte got, but I would say some of the picks like they like late, probably like a year from now, maybe 2 3 years from now. So basically they ain't get too much out of it. But like I said, let's talk about. I'm gonna talk about Minnesota right quick first. What I think about the deal for what I okay. I'm explain like this. What do I think about Minnesota now as a team? They did they get better? I say I won't say they got better. I think they were right there. I would say they was pretty much neutral. If you want to say they got a pointing arrow going up, they weren't there. They stay neutral pretty much. They can go up or down at the time before they got Lamelo Ball. Right now, I'll say the trajectory go down at least 2 slides. So basically, this is how I look at it. To me, next year I would say San Antonio's better than Minnesota. Oklahoma City, they are better than Minnesota. I would say Houston is a lot better because they get Van Fleet back, so they get Fred back. And in some, I'm just based on Fred Van Fleet, I think that's going to give them a little more bump for Houston. Um, let me see who else I like. I think what's it called? One of the bad team last year. Neither. Let's see, San Antonio, OKC, Houston. I'm trying to think on top of my head who else I think I like out of that. Denver is better. I still like Denver. Um, Denver is good. I think they're better than Minnesota right now. I think I would say I'm gonna say one team. They go one slide, so they still top 5 ish, but things can change. But okay, the thing about it is this: Lamelo is the type of guy that the coaching that Minnesota Timberwolves got is going. He will take no type of nonsense for Lamelo Ball. I'm just gonna put it like that. Second thing about it too, you got a guy like Anthony Edwards that's always on tip all the time. He always, how to explain it? He's on 100 all the time on the court. They, after they lost last year against San Antonio, he dapped them up probably like 9 minutes after the game, but before the quarter over with. But in the fourth quarter, I mean, you can't help how competitive he is. So I kind of understand why he did it, but at the same time, that's probably the best thing to do. Probably like 5 minutes to 8 minutes left during the game. So uh, the good thing about it is this: Minnesota did not lose too much. They got Rudy Gobert still. They got Jalen McDaniels. To me, Jalen McDaniels is the X factor to all this basically because if he can turn up his offense again and get somewhere near the neighborhood right at I'm gonna say just under 20, that's what's gonna be that's what's gonna propel them up. The thing about LaMelo Ball is he's the guy that's gonna to set things up basically. Uh, he led the league. Probably I don't know. He led the league in assists, but he won the top 6 guys in the NBA. So it's gonna help. It's gonna help Anthony Edwards. But in those times, especially in playoff games, he need help scoring. That's what Lamelo Ball comes into. He'll give you 30. He'll definitely give you 30 and 10 nights. He'll give you a triple double, things like that. That will help. That will help Edwards out in the long run because you can't you can't help the fact that Lamelo Ball can score. So he going to me that's just like saying that's the issue right now in Detroit right now. They can't find a second scorer to help Cade Cunningham out. That's now that Anthony Edwards got that. Now, like I said, we don't know how it's going to look for the next first couple of games of the season. I can kind of tell you to me, I feel like they're gonna play 500 ball at least until All Star break. At least they're gonna be a top 16 throughout close to the All Star break because they gotta get used to each other and stuff. So, like I said, they will be the most exciting team in the NBA. So I ain't taking nothing away from that. Um, my thoughts on Charlotte. Charlotte got better because the Eastern Conference, because they could pull the they could pull the plane going up now instead of pulling it down. They going nose down. They can pull it up and they can find a good surface in the air and stay in the air. They could drop a 10,000 feet below a little bit, but they're gonna hit some turbulence because now you got now this now we're gonna see how good that coach is, and we're gonna see how good Con Knipple and Brandon Miller are as 1-2 in their franchise. Plus, they get a now Nas Reed will get somewhere 20, 25, 30 some minutes a game. Now his numbers gonna go up. I don't know what style they gonna. He can still gonna shoot threes, but I don't know how they gonna work this out now. They gonna play on the high pick and roll or playing the top of the key now since his passability is great. So what kind of sets are they gonna run for Charlotte now? And is they gonna be more a space team? Well, is they gonna be more like Boston when they can shoot threes until they can't shoot threes no more, or are they gonna be more tempo team, or they can be somewhere in the middle of that. But we don't know what tip they're gonna be in the offensive end. But I think I short term I like Minnesota. Long term I give it to Charlotte. So that's my opinion on that deal. Um, the other deal, Miles Bridges going to the Phoenix Suns. Um, what I like about that deal, to me, I think Phoenix got kind of fleeced in that deal too. That's why I say Charlotte gonna be better than they're gonna be a lot better next year because they got Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal. So they made Charlotte a lot better. Basically, what I'm saying is they were playing last year. This year they ain't gonna probably be in the playing this year. I'm pretty sure they might be a top 16 next year because Detroit didn't make enough moves to get better. So Detroit, they can probably know. I won't say they're extremely nosedive, but I can say they can. They're gonna take a little bit of nosedive. So just like what I said about the plane, they were about 30,000 feet there, and they gonna drop at least about 20,000 feet now. So you gonna have Detroit got to work a little bit more. Um, Orlando's gonna be interesting. Atlanta got Charlotte got better. Orlando State, I mean Atlanta Hawks got. I think Atlanta's situation is gonna be interesting too because it's gonna be based on Kingston Kingston Fleming's development and how can they keep up the performance they did last year. That's gonna be the Hawks issue. But other than that, like I said, New York's gonna be the top of the mountain. Um, Charlotte can go from the stuff they got. I'm pretty sure they can. Like I said, they can be a top 16. They might play in a little bit of playing again next year, but like I said, that Miles Bridges deal does it though because like I said, I think Phoenix got a little fleeced out that deal a little bit because number one, because I don't know how Miles Bridges will fit in that Phoenix Suns offense because his shot attempts will go down. He will still do dirty work. I can say this much. His offensive stuff is going to be pretty much predicated on rebounds and the open shots. Cause he was in Charlotte. I mean, he averaged above 17 a game. So he gonna get by. He's so he's relentless. He's so relentless on the boards, and he's so athletic. He'll give you at least 7 to 8 rebounds a night. So the question is he gonna drop 4 points a game down, or he gonna stay at that number? Because well, it's interesting because I just thought about this and it just popped in my head. Dylan Brooks had a hell of a year last year offensively. So with Miles Bridges coming in, I don't know that Dylan Brooks his shot. his total shots he took last year is going to take a little bit of dip. I don't know how much of dip he want to give it up. That's the problem I have with that situation too. Um, Jalen Green, he going he if he hot, he hot, and sometimes he off. But like I said, hopefully he stay healthy this year, and so Phoenix Suns can make that push again at least to play in somewhere in that 7 to 8 seed. So that's how I look at it too. But to me, Charlotte just on the fire sale. Um, Plus on that, I think personally, I think like I said for those two deals, short term. Wait a minute, I'm gonna say short term. I think Charlotte got a better end of this deal more than anything. I think Phoenix Suns got fleeced. I don't know, but we'll see. But I think they got kind of fleeced. But it is what it is because basically Charlotte trying to let go some of that side cap stuff, side cap money because they might go big game hunting, but right now they know for sure that Brandon and Con Canova are the two franchise guys. They the big man on campus now. So that's how I look at it. So like I said, now we I think the John Morant watch is over with. He going to Portland Trailblazers. So Jeremy Grant and Chris Murray, they going to Memphis. So my thoughts on that is this: the last place I thought John Morant would go was to Portland. This deal I feel indifferent from more than any deal I've seen. Well, I'm put it like this: I feel more indifferent with this deal than I do about the Jaylen Brown deal. To me personally, because I think what's going to happen is Dame and Ja going to start. Sharp and Scoot Henderson are going to be on the bench, which is going to be interesting because it slows down those two guys' development because Jalen Sharp just got paid probably last year, so he got that break. Which is going to be interesting is Scoot Henderson, his deal is coming up this year too, which it got me thinking is what they gonna do about Scoop? Scoop is gonna be because he's starting showing why he was the number two pick in that draft. Because when he was in that playoff game against San Antonio, he did really well in that game. And he should start peaking throughout these last couple of games, especially during the regular season. So the issue is right now is this: you got four guards. You got Dame, Ja, Scoop, and Shane Sharp. The problem is that the younger guys will get to play, but how I'm pretty sure how the coach is going to use them in some way. But I think with Scoot Henderson issue to me, since his trajectory was going up the last couple, especially the back end of last season in the playoffs and stuff, I want to know what they're gonna do about that. If Scoot continues this, I think Portland Trailblazers will sell him as bait as I'm gonna say. Well, I'm gonna say. Well, I'm gonna go with it. What I'm gonna say. Let me go with the punches. They're gonna sell him as a trade bait some point in time during the season. He keeps continue playing the way he played in the back end of last season because They could probably get a veteran off this. Um, Hell, if Sharp plays well, they could probably practice. I won't say package them at the same time, but they probably can trade both of them off to get better, in a sense. Maybe get a guy like I'm. He'll talk about Anthony Davis. Shoot, they can package those one of them guys to go to Washington or somewhere else, or places like Atlanta that needs more outlet scoring and more offensive prowess. Uh, shit, it's different places they can go, but like I said, that's 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 my thought about the Josh situation going to Portland and Memphis is basically this. They just added two veterans. Um, Cameron's gonna play. Grant is gonna play too. I'm guessing they playing. I can see a scenario they got Edie, Boozer, Grant, um, maybe Ty Jerome, um, and Cedric Kyle, somewhere in that starting lineup. Or they put Wells in the lineup. It depends how they go use them. But it pretty much that Memphis just grab some more veterans and hope they get since they get boozers, I think they probably can challenge somewhere. They could get back towards the other instead of going the other direction and get lottery picks. They could kind of go the other way and try to get better. I'm gonna say at least they win at least 30 games with that team, especially with Cameron Boozer back. Is a franchise player now. I can see Cameron in the Grizzlies just be somewhere between 20 and 35 games winning next year. It is going to be in that window. I don't think they're going to be that bad. They're just going to be just enough to be competitive. Same thing with Grizzlies, not Grizzlies with Portland. I think they're gonna be. I think they're gonna do enough to be competitive. I don't know if they will make it to the playoffs and nothing like that, but I'm not too sure about it. I feel very indifferent about that deal. But like I said, hopefully it's a fresh start for Ja. Ja can show everybody like why he's uh, the best point guard with the last 3 years at one point. He was like the point guard at one point. So hopefully they get back around that way. Um, my issues. Let's talk about the next deal here. Let's talk about the Jaylen Brown going to the Sixers. Yeah, here's my thoughts on that. I feel very indifferent about that deal too. I think I feel bad for Paul George. Paul George being some deals that make you be like, wait a minute. So you telling me like during the time, especially Cedric Alexander, Shea Alexander, should I say? Shea Gilgeous Alexander, especially during that time, he was a rookie, and Kawhi like, hey man, bring Paul George over there, like, and everybody like, okay, and Thunder's like, man, give me SGA and we go from there. That deal went down the whole 9 yards. Whoever thought that SGA wins the NBA championship, and you look at that Paul George deal, like, they look like, I ain't been, the Clippers looking around like, man, Clipper friends, well, I'm gonna put it like this, short term wise, it helped the Clippers. Long term, they look at it like, hey man, that man's like a top 5 player in the NBA, and we traded him for Paul George. This does not sit right with me. Now, it's gonna be very interesting watching this deal with him and Jaylen Brown because let's just say Philadelphia does go to the NBA championship. Paul George on another deal, they end up winning the NBA championship. And you be like, Paul George, we know Paul George is good. He been a very, very, very good player in the NBA. Them deals he was in, maybe gonna look at his career a little bit different, but it won't look like stupidly different. But it's just some fans gonna look at it like, so he was going against LeBron at one point. He had a bad, massive, bad leg injury. He comes back from that, still like a top 10 NBA player. And he's back in his NBA career, like, man, you part of all these deals, and then one player wins the NBA championship on one deal, then Jaylen Brown wins, he's back on another championship. So, I'm. Here's my thing. With the Boston Celtics, I'm kind of surprised that I don't think it's a money thing. Boston's so good at getting draft picks and stuff like that. I'm surprised they didn't ask for more for Jaylen Brown. But I guess they want Jaylen Brown out. I won't say they want him out bad, but they just like, well, just give me anything for Jaylen Brown. So they gave him a future first round pick and the second round draft pick just to move off of Jaylen. So I mean, we'll see. I think Jaylen Brown with the Sixers would be good, especially with Joel Embiid get injured time for time. It helps them on the offensive end. So you got a rookie contract in VJ. You got Tyrese Maxey is probably the top 3-point guard in the league, so that's going to help. Plus, they defensively, Nick Nurse will love because you got pretty much VJ and Jaylen Brown. You get two-way players off of that, so pretty much they'll go after on defense. You got two guys who can do that, play both ends. So you can let Tyrese do the heavy lifting on offense, basically. So it's a good deal for them. It's definitely going to up the score for them. Boston, on the other hand, Paul George and Jason Tatum, I think they would work because even though they got similar games, Paul was starting playing well towards the end of the season too, because he's just getting legs back under him for the perspective of that. But I want to see what Joe would do, how he gonna scheme up the offense with them two guys. Plus, they got excellent shooters on the team. Boston's still gonna be Boston because they got excellent coaches. This is the move for the scare off New York Knicks. I don't think so, but that the Sixers going to put up a fight against New York now. So now you're gonna watch that Philadelphia and New York Knicks game a whole lot more different now because you got Jaylen Brown over there. So even though they get Mitchell Robinson from New York for the Celtics, so they got their big man figured out too. So, but at the end of the day, I mean, did Boston do the right thing? Well, in their mind, they did the right thing, but the other part about it, did they get enough for that deal? That's the question they got to ask themselves. They will probably know. They'll know somewhere before the All-Star break. They'll be like, damn. So, you think we got enough for him or not? Because That's the question they gonna ask. They said they did they think they got enough for Jaylen Brown? I can see a scenario that like, okay, I don't think we got enough. Guess what? We're gonna make the point. We might have to make a phone call to go. They might have to go to get Drew Holiday and go back to Portland and be like, hey, you got all these guards up here. Can you? I'm on Drew. So I forgot about Drew Holiday, Portland. I forgot to say stuff. I forgot to say some stuff about him in the Ja Morant deal because they got too many guards. But like I said, who knows? Boston Celtics can, like I said, Boston Celtics can make a phone call and be like, look, can you bring back Drew Holiday, uh, a two a two-way player, a veteran that won an NBA championship with us and get better and over time so they can make that charge to make a I'm gonna say a late I won't say a late surge, but it's getting a good surge to get to the playoffs and make them better. Um, Other than that, man, I mean, I still don't know. I mean, to me, honestly, I think that Philadelphia benefits the deal. They do get the benefit of the deal because short term, I say short and long term, Philadelphia is headed the right direction. Because short term, they could get to the finals next year just based on what they got. Especially, like I said, Miami gonna try to get LeBron, and Philadelphia trying to get LeBron. They add LeBron in the starting five. Guess what? They changed all. That's the shift we talking about. This the main thing. It's the shift. So this shift is going to change if Philadelphia get LeBron. Without LeBron with this roster, they still gonna be well. They gonna still be good. Um, like I said, end of the day, I think for Boston's standpoint is they gonna be fine. I just don't know. They think they. I don't know they got enough for Jaylen Brown. That's my issue with it. The guy that averaged 27, averaged almost 29 points a game, and gave you 7 rebounds and gave you 5 assists a game. So who knows? And he had an MVP season. We don't know. To me, we will see until like that line. The other deal we could talk about is the Kawhi deal, but right now it's in limbo right now. So Clippers still got him. So that's gonna be interesting too, because like Brandon Ingram goes to LA, and Toronto is gonna be. Let's put it like this: on that deal in hand, let's say they figure everything out with that whole Kawhi situation. If Kawhi goes, they end up go back with that deal again, and they go back with the deal and figure out something else. They might have to renew the deal a little bit different. Let's just say they go through the deal. I think Toronto is a top 5 team already because you get Kawhi Leonard. He's good offensively, and plus he doesn't have to do much because he got younger guys like Scotty Barnes that is a playmaker, a ball handler. He's a Swiss Army knife. You got R.J. Barrett, very good scorer, Emmanuel quickly, very fast guard, and they got Jake, the big guy. Like I said, they got pieces, so they can actually make a run in the Eastern Conference. So that helps him going back to it's gonna help them going to the Eastern Conference. I won't say Eastern Conference Finals, but it's gonna help them nudge their way up. Especially like I said, end of the day, wherever LeBron goes, it's gonna pretty much tip the Eastern Conference a little bit. I won't say it tip them towards that way, but it's going to tip them a little bit. It's going to tip them. It's going to change the shift of the Eastern Conference. Basically, it's going to be a lot tougher. So the last time the King was there, it was a lot easier. Now it's a little bit more hard because it's a little bit harder than it was because New York Knicks is the NBA champs. Detroit is good. Uh, Miami's gonna be decent. Orlando's gonna be pretty decent. The Hawks gonna be pretty decent. Philadelphia's gonna be really, really good. Boston's gonna be good. So, like I said, in the day, it's like this. Um, I'm about to end this podcast. Here's my final thoughts on everything. I think I think Julius Randle in the Brooklyn stuff. I think it's gonna be fine over there. They gonna be pretty good next year. I think Giannis and them gonna be good, but not great the first year. You could probably tell a lot more the second year because I don't think they're gonna do too much this year. Because I don't think they're gonna have the roster that's gonna balance them out basically. Uh, Chicago, Memphis, uh, Portland. More of those teams are more like upstart teams. So I'm gonna leave Portland out of it, but Memphis and Bulls are more like upstart teams. Same thing with Brooklyn. They like upstart teams. They trying to get their nose up and keep the road just keep a straight and narrow road, no turning, nothing like that. Excuse me. Charlotte and Portland, they pretty much is gonna be on the scene to make it the playoffs next year. Uh, I think to me about the Lamelo Ball deal, to me I was on the other side of that, meaning I I like Lamelo Ball, but I felt like Lamelo Ball has to go somewhere that complements him in a sense, and the coaching. And my biggest issue with Lamelo Ball is injuries. I ain't saying that he's not a good player. It's just injuries, and I kind of question. I kind of question him sometimes his playing style. If he will be a good playoff player or good does a does a good playoff team wants him on the team. That's my issue. But Minnesota won, so which it tells me is Anthony Edwards and Ball going to be very, very exciting. And plus on that part, on that, they think they have the pieces to make a charge of the Western Conference Final. That's what Minnesota is telling me about LaMelo Ball. That he's the piece and he gonna run this offense. And I'm not sure. Well, I forgot they lost Michael Conley. Mike Conley with the boss. So that's that's why I think about that. Any more thoughts on that? I think Philly gonna be very, very good next year. And Jaylen Brown ain't gonna be averaging nearly 30 points a game next year. I think his numbers are gonna drop. Uh, Miles Bridges' numbers are gonna drop. And I'm still trying to figure out what's gonna happen with how John Morant, Drew Holiday, Damian Lillard, Shaden Sharp, Scoot Henson, how's that guard dynamic gonna play in Portland? Because it could be all bad and it could be all good depending on which the issue is. But this is it for me. Uh, like, subscribe, leave a comment under my uh leave a leave a comment. Please leave a comment. Podcast, YouTube, things like that. TikTok. Um, Hope y'all have a great day and have a great night. Enjoy. Hopefully, I come back with another show or two. So, peace.